As our economy takes center stage, we are honored to have with us this afternoon the esteemed Finance Minister, Ms. Nirmala Sitharaman, someone who is fearless, outspoken, and takes on every battle head-on. Joining her in this conversation, we have from Republic TV, the political editor, Aishwarya Kapoor, and Associate Editor Shivani Gupta. May I request all of you to please come up on stage. Why are there 4 chairs? Ladies and gentlemen, Nirmala Sitharaman with Arnab Goswami, Aishwarya Kapoor, and Shivani Gupta.
I just want to begin and request everyone to please be seated. I want to first of all begin with a round of applause, please, our lovely audience, for the Finance Minister who's taken out time, even as bills related to her ministry are being tabled. So we really want to make the most of our time, and I hand over to Arnab.
Well, I first want to thank Union Finance Minister. Can we settle down, please, in the hall, please? Can you all take your seats? Stop moving around. It's very distracting. Thank you, please. Thank you, please. So, can the photographers just settle down on that side, please? Yeah, thank you.
Please.
Thank you. Okay, so a very warm welcome to someone who I have had the pleasure of knowing for almost, if I may say so, over a decade and a half, professionally, in various roles. And I have seen the way in which Nirmala Sitharaman has come out as a shining star in our political life. And I've known her as, when she started out as a spokesperson, she would be feisty and have the greatest amount of personal research on any subject, which is true even today, that when I interviewed her on Rafale about a month back, and I made a personal request to Nirmala ji that I would want you to come to my studio, she came all the way to the studio, and she had every fact on her fingertips. So I'd like to congratulate you for the way in which your career has progressed, much well-deserved, and also for sharing the stage with us today at the summit. Nirmala ji, once again, thank you very much for coming. Thank you. Personally grateful. I know what Union Finance Minister coming out, Parliament is on. She has a short duration discussion coming up, so we won't waste time. My first question to you, Nirmala ji, and the mic is there right up, you can take it. And we'll keep it focused. We'll take a few questions from the audience later. Nirmala ji, when are we going to get our mojo back as an economy? The doomsday naysayers are all back in business. You have had a series of Friday pronouncements, one after the other. You have done a lot, your latest in the realty sector. But, Nirmala ji, I would say the adrenaline is still not beginning to flow in our economy. And Mumbai, everyone wants to know what really is the problem, and do we have a solution for this as of now, the way we are placed?
Thank you, Arnab. And I think it's the right question to start a session with the Finance Minister. And I'll honestly tell you that for every challenge that the economy and the various sectors have been talking to us, in right earnest, with the Prime Minister directly involved in this decision-making, we've been coming up with whatever could be called as a redressal or some kind of a palliative or some kind of a relief measure. And I can state with some figures that I can see the changes appearing and the sentiment also definitely changing. Is it adequate? Well, you can have different versions of it saying it may not be adequate, you need much more, but sentiment is something which I can't drive just from my end. It has to appear all over the economy. But one indicator based on immediately after the budget, the kind of messages which were given to me and to all of you all in the media too, oh, there's no liquidity in the market. Oh, there's no sentiment or assistance for people to buy things which they want to buy. Oh, there's a lot of inventory waiting here. Things are not getting sold out. Yes. I'll just address only two of them to show that changes are happening and happening for the better. When people said there was no liquidity, I believed it in total and started working to see where exactly is all the liquidity. And I've held series of meetings and post which, even with the Reserve Bank being present with us, with the banks, public sector, and later with the private sector, it was credibly established. And the media, gratefully, I should recognize this role of the media. The media carried all this message every day whenever I appeared, and with the people around me sitting and saying, there was no liquidity crunch, in the sense liquidity was available, but it wasn't available for those who wanted it. So next stage was to make sure that the flow of that liquidity happened, and without going too elaborately on what are the kind of things I did, just taking the example of the outreach program that we held, two phases of it, one during the Navratras and one during Diwali, before and after Diwali. The total amount of credit which has gone into the hands of the people, liquidity flowing into the hands of the people under various categories, is 2,50,000 crores. You're welcome to go check the figure. I even had an elaborate press release given out. Just in the month of October, due to the steps that were taken in the form of outreach, and did the outreach happen only in the 4 metropolitan towns? No, it happened in over 370 districts in the country. 370 districts. I targeted 400. They achieved as much as they could within the 374. 2,50,000 crores. All right. If this went directly to farmers, SMEs, people who wanted to buy their homes, buy their vehicles, this is one way of also getting money to their hands to spend it for things that they wanted to spend on. What did the NBFCs get? Because liquidity sometimes flows directly from the bank to the customers. In many cases in the rural areas, it goes through the NBFCs, non-banking financial companies. They alone, from the public sector banks, received over 16,000 crores for further funding of people who want to buy or invest in their business and so on. So, liquidity, I've established that the problem was not availability of liquidity, but available for those who wanted it. Okay, and for those who wanted it, we've taken steps to say, those who wanted it will get it. Now, what about the inventory, the other problem? We were talking about inventory because of the automobile sector, and again, the inventory mostly has got cleared. It's not me saying, even the automobile companies are saying it, because there was a systemic problem. I won't elaborate, but I'm only trying to say, if this is the way in which at least two of the main issues were addressed, Arnab, you were right in saying, reality, we've come up with a window. NBFCs, we've come up with the last NBFCs, we've come up with a partial guarantee scheme, all of which I'm monitoring almost on a weekly basis.
You're administering the medicine, before I hand over to my colleagues, you're administering the medicine, but the health parameters are not picking up. And the GDP is already at a 6-year low at 5%. And, the numbers that are showing is for the September quarter, that will be out on November 29th, that will fall to 4.2 to 4.7%. So, the whole thing is sentiment breeds sentiment, then we go into a cycle, and our trade deficit has also hit a 7-month low. Exports and imports are seeing the steepest nosedive. My question is, I don't want to be just a negative, reaching out the negative figures. Are we seeing a lag? Because what happens very often between the sentiment improving and the numbers improving, we discussed this when I had the occasion to meet you, to invite you, that there is a lag. Is this simply a lag or something else?
Lag is also an issue.
Lag is also an issue.
Yes, because, for instance, if even as you say all this, there is an unprecedented increase in the FDI. FPIs have also increased in the last month, which means investors are coming here not just for short duration investment, but are coming with long duration plan. Obviously, investors are not going to come into an economy which is going to be sluggish. So there are indications, there are very clear indications of how we can see that people are investing in India. You've also heard about the various other companies which post our announcement in the corporate tax cuts have made clear plans to invest. And invest now after October 1st would mean that they're going to be paying the lowest tax rates ever in any part of the world. So there are plans and they're all coming out. Yes, the lag will explain it.
Madam Minister, there is one thing that you cannot fault the current government or the previous government, tenure of the Modi government, is that they are very responsive. Several times they respond very quickly. We saw that post demonetization as well. And they have identified certain key areas. Recapitalization of the banks has been a big focus. You've talked about the corporate tax cut, which was a long-standing demand. And Arnab touched about the lag. But I want to understand from you, as the finance minister, what is that one area which you feel you have to work on for the next 6 months, 1 year, that is continuing to be the biggest problem for the lag or for the overall liquidity issue or whatever you deem is the current problem right now? What is on fast track right now?
There won't be one. If actually I'll have to list out, there are a few. But if indeed you want to reduce it to one, I would only say more money in investments from the public sector, so that the more the public sector invests, private sector will be induced to follow, private sector would like to capitalize, and therefore there will be greater investments, creating more purchases of essential raw materials and resulting in more jobs. So more investments from the public treasury.
And you've invested so much. Aishwarya, just a short follow-up. The government has invested so much. Government has given so much for public infrastructure. Why isn't the private investment picking up?
Well, I think that's a very long story which most of the private sector people would understand, and I wouldn't want to repeat it, because the more times you repeat it, it's also going to have a sentiment value or sentiment impact. Many things have happened in the last several years, and now when they're coming out of the difficulties, they take a while to take investment decisions. So that time consumption by the investors, private sector investors, is understandable because they are coming out of a trying situation in which they were. The double balance sheet problem, the twin balance sheet problem that we were talking about, private sector balance sheet, bank balance sheet, all that has been, in the past. But I think they will be coming around now that the tax incentive has been given. They should be able to sooner start investing. But the reason why I harp on investment is the momentum which the government set in place in order to put public money into infrastructure building, because it will have a comprehensive impact on the society, cannot be undermined at all. And that is why even yesterday when I was sitting and reviewing the task force that I've appointed to look at the infrastructure pipeline, clearing big ticket projects, they are going absolutely fine. And sometime middle of December, you will get to know of the major projects which are getting, because of the front loading of the 100 lakh crores that we've announced, you will know that big ticket also is moving absolutely fast.
Ma'am, anyone who knows leader Nirmala Sitharaman, they know that you've been capable enough to steer away the toughest questions ever since BJP. We've asked you several questions.
Steer away or answer?
Steer away, bacha ke le jao.
Answer.
BJP ko bacha ke le jao. Ma'am, and Hindi mein bhi, Hindi mein bhi. Your Hindi is as good as English. We remember Nirmala Sitharaman doing press conferences in Hindi. Ma'am, you can't.
And you sat and giggled.
No, but that's okay. But that way you've given us that leverage. So what I'm saying, ma'am, whatever figures you give, whatever, how do I say, so whatever elaborate explanations you give, basic aadmi, ma'am, the common man still asks, ho kya raha hai? Ho kya raha hai? And kab theek hoga? Because now you're weekly. You used to come out once a week and speak. So the people used to get a message. Now the budget is going to come, that's going to stop as well. So aam aadmi pooch raha, bhai ho kya raha hai? From the Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman. Ma'am, Hindi mein bole.
I'm coming to it.
Okay.
Ho kya raha hai sounds very punchy in Hindi. For me to give a punchy reply in Hindi is very difficult. I'll only say, अच्छा ही हो रही है.
But now when your weekly appearances are going to be less or completely over, ma'am, the message, how would the message go? Because the industry...
What he's saying is that your Friday press conferences having stopped is a source of constant heart attacks for people in Mumbai. They were actually looking forward to it, let me tell you. Yeah, I know you. That's true. Every Friday, you ask anybody in industry was looking forward to a press conference, but there's a drought of that. So, they were expecting this sop week after week. You've spoiled the habit.
No, whilst I take the blame for spoiling the habit, you have parliament session now.
That's true.
Is it all right for a finance minister to come in on a weekly appearance and say, I've brought in new things to your kitty? Not the best time. And as soon as the parliament is over, we get into that period when everything is locked up for pre-budget consultations. So till the parliament is on, if I have to announce, I'm not closing the door. If I have to announce, I will announce on the floor of the House. It won't be in a press conference on a Friday. It might be on the floor of the House.
Might be here.
So I'm not saying anything on it. But I'm only saying I'm not shutting the door.
There's one announcement from the public sphere, also from the point of view of parity and being fair. We have to be fair because you slashed your corporate tax rates. And anyone who knows that says that it's not new. You had made a fundamental promise in previous budgets, it was adhered to. So it's not new, but the fact that it happened was a source of relief because the position you took in your first budget after coming in 2019 was a tough one. But my question is that if you've slashed your corporate rates, the middle class income tax slabs remain unchanged. So means they are getting no relief on the taxes at a time when their purchasing power is limited. That, along with the fact that we are still in the arena of vulnerable employment, most people in India who find jobs don't find the jobs which are non-precarious, which are stable. So when will you give similar relief to the honest tax-paying middle classes or salaried classes of India? Is that on your mind? Don't make the announcement, but is it, even if you say it's on my mind, that'll mean a lot.
The honest middle class taxpayer is never forgotten. Otherwise, would you think that the Prime Minister would have come up with a scheme for the affordable housing, which actually benefits the middle class? And even in the affordable housing, not just for buying affordable housing, which has a certain ceiling limit, but also when you buy your second house, when you're on rent, whole lot of things have been extended to the middle class, and middle class is never forgotten. All right?
Well, you didn't announce anything out there. You said we haven't forgotten, but this has been. I'm not asking.
You said don't announce.
I'm saying don't announce, but say
you
that.
Stopped me.
Are you saying that my mind and my heart is thinking about the possibility?
But you stopped me.
No, but I didn't stop you at all.
Look at that.
I've unfettered you now. Would you please say so? I've unfettered you now, so say so. Ms. Sitharaman, a statement of intent. You see, eventually it has to be about your base. Your base is not big enough. Now you're asking for due diligence, you're asking for compliance. I think the first thing, while you harden on compliance, should be the fact that you should work hard to increase your base. And what better way than of saying that we will broad base and maybe revisit the slabs that the tax-paying classes are paying.
I don't ever forget them, Arnab, but it's also good that you've really spent a lot of time reminding me about it. I'll keep that in mind.
Well, thank you very much. On behalf of everyone, thank you very much. And all our Republic Network employees as well, who are all tax-paying, honest, salaried class people, we are all part of that. Well, please, further questions.
I just want to take off from the recent PMC bank scam. And I know you've cleared your finance ministry's position. Of course, the RBI has been working on it. But corruption overall and corruption in financial institutions has been grabbing the headlines most recently. The Prime Minister was here yesterday. He talked about the background of the NPA issue that the government is dealing with. We've had the Economic Offenders Bill. We've had the PMC bank scam right now. And other, you're bringing a regulation bill for chit funds. So there have been Ponzi schemes that have robbed people. Corruption is a large focus of the Narendra Modi-led government. What is your vision on this as the finance minister, especially corruption that has seeped into financial institutions?
And one line to follow up from Shivani's very pertinent question. Ms. Sitharaman, a crackdown on corruption alone is not enough to steer the economy. That is a separate process. The crackdown on corruption, everything. She spoke about the regulation of chit funds, the transparent auction of coal blocks. We appreciate that. Dragging back economic fugitives, fantastic. But a crackdown on corruption alone is not enough to steer the economy. Please.
I fully agree. But yet, unless I attend to that also, the system is not going to change. The fact that you're constantly reminding me about the harassment of tax assessees. And that is where the reforms are not just to remove those who are with several cases of corruption and disproportionate assets, which has been over the decades pending. We've taken legitimate course of removing them because there are provisions for me to do that. But simultaneously, I'm improving the systems too. So not one notice from any one of the tax authorities, direct or indirect, can be sent to the SSA unless it has a centralized, computerized number. And it also very clearly states in that about the claims. This will ensure that at a local level, no officer can go about saying, hey, I've come to inspect you, I've come to, levy a charge on you, you have to pay this much without the system approving it. What is the system? At least there is an accountability. The claim that this man makes is based on some data, and eventually when the collection happens, that collection goes into the treasury and not into his pocket. That is where this twin system of give the number, state what you're asking for, and then justify the collection, and you shall not do it face on face. You shall not have a personal interface. And this is a major correction to the course for the corruption. But yet, on the way in which assessment has to be done, on the way in which taxpayers will have to be facilitated, and above all, looking at GST with a lot more intention to simplify and rationalize it, are the ways in which I expect better compliance.
Well, I think, we have Mohandas Pai in the audience. His pet peeve, and I'm sure he'll ask a question when I throw it open, has been on the issue of tax terrorism. And I hope you do something about this. Nirmala ji, I know you have limited time. I'm going to open up to a few questions from those in the audience. On the issue of tax terrorism only, I'd say this, that, sometimes you found, like in a certain case of an individual who committed suicide, that just before the person did so, there was an assessment which came up when a large transaction happened. So with your permission, I'd like to open up for a few questions from the audience. And I think the first question goes from Mohandas Pai out here, please. He's been waiting here. I think you know him well. Can someone give the mic there, please? Thank you. We'll take a few questions for the Finance Minister. I'd like to also warmly welcome Minister of State in the PMO, Mr. Jitendra Singh, who has just walked in, please. Thank you. Thank you. Mohandas Pai, please. Thank you.
Madam, what you have done is remarkable. I want to congratulate you publicly for what you have done in terms of assessment. I think it will work in the future. Now, the big issue is an enormous amount of 6.5 lakh crores stuck up in tax disputes. 6.5 lakh crores stuck up in tax disputes in the courts. Now, it takes 15 years for something to happen. You look at the balance sheet of all major companies, you find 5,000 crores, 4,000 crores demand under contingent liabilities. Can you have a look at that to make sure in the next 3-6 months we see some resolution in the Supreme Court, High Court, etc. Because it's getting adjourned. Your attorneys don't come to court, they take adjournment. It's a mess. Life is miserable. And there is no faith of the international community and us in India in the tax assessment system, because India has a broken assessment system which you have fixed and a broken appeal system. An appeal system is broken for the last 15 years, not today. But please solve that. Second point, just one point. Madam, for our growth to $5 trillion, we don't have the financial resources. The GSEC rate today and the repo rate is very, very wide, showing a lack of enough money because we have to invest enormous amount of money. Will government issue 30, 50-year international bonds from a country like Japan to raise, let's say, $500 billion in the next 5 years to pump money into the economy so we don't suffer from a lack of money.
Thank you. Thank you, Mohan.
Well, on both your points, I think I've had quite a few discussions with you, and I'll appreciate those points. And particularly about the money not being available, I've made some announcements in the budget. We'll certainly follow them up. And as regards cases which are in the courts, particularly in the pre-GST era cases which have been hanging fire, I've made it a point to tell that there will be a checkbox system through which clients themselves can say, this is how much is due, your claim is this, I'm willing to settle down for this much, and we're willing to go. That is called by the larger name of Sabka Vishwas. The deadline for that is 31st December. Whoever wants to come up in that scheme, very welcome to come. It's a transparent process of settling. As regards other cases, I've just asked the ministry to review what is the total number of cases, where are they pending, and how much is due from them. I'm sure I'll work out something for that also.
We'll take a couple. Okay, one sec.
Come to you, sir.
Okay,
sir, we'll come to you, sir.
Mr. Jindal, we'll
sir, please.
give you the mic, please.
Sir, the mic will reach you, sir.
Mic to Mr. Jindal there. Yeah. Oh, no, Mr. Jindal can take the question. Okay. Thank you. I can't hear you, sir. Can the mic be placed up, please?
Just check it again.
Oh, I'll just jump off. Hold on.
No, Aishwarya, sit.
Madam, my name is Akash Jindal. I'm an economist. I have high respect for you and your government. 8% GDP growth, that was committed to us, this budget. Why so? Mr. Pai told about $5 trillion economy. The base which we were given by your ministry was that we'll have a quarter-to-quarter 8% GDP growth. With due regards and lot of respect, we are at 5% GDP growth. Research tells us this quarter we may be around 4.5% or 4.4%. So, madam, are we still Are we still serious about that $5 trillion economy? And if we are, how do we reach that? That's what my question is. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jindal.
Very well. I mean, I can see the anxiety with which you've asked this question. We in the government have equal anxiety or more in order that we achieve the 5 trillion target, and we're doing enough measures. We're taking enough measures to ensure. And I'm not saying this with a sense of complacency, but only in a forum like this, I won't have the luxury of time to list out the various steps that I'm taking. There's going to be a short duration discussion in the Rajya Sabha today.
Yes.
I invite you to watch it. You'll get an elaborate answer from me.
Yes. Okay. One question from here from Mr. Sanjeev Goenka, I think. Can you give the mic here, please? Mr. Sanjeev Goenka wanted to ask you a question.
Good afternoon, madam. First of all, as I've said to you before, the thought that goes into all your presentations is commendable, and salutations for that. One issue that we are dealing with is the issue of interpretation. All of us are very happy to comply with the law. But for example, the IGST Act of 2017 states that zero-rated supply will cover export of goods and services, and any registered person exporting goods and services shall be eligible to claim refund of input tax paid. Today's Economic Times actually talks about an interpretation issue, as a result of which a huge amount of legitimate refunds which are due are being held up. Simple request is, if the scope for interpretations could be removed and the law be completely clarified so that these ambiguities don't exist.
Thank you, Sanjeev.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Yeah, that's an input. Okay, fine. We'll take one last question, please. One last question, please. Okay. Okay. 1 second. Where do we take the last question? Okay, so we have. Can you give it in the middle of the? Yeah, please. Yeah, middle of this audience. No, here. Right here.
The center of the
Center. Sorry. If you can keep it brief. As she said, she has an important short duration discussion in Parliament. Yeah, and we have our next panel.
Ma'am, I'm Sushil Kedia from Bombay. In your budget speech, you had mentioned Nari tu hi Narayani hai. Nari tu hi Narayan hai. My humble question is, when are we going to get the picture of Mahalakshmi on our currency notes?
Thank you.
That's again an input. Okay, that's an input. Do we have time to squeeze in one question? Because I saw so many hands go up for you. Okay, we have a question out there, so we'll give it. Huh? Yeah, where is that?
Let's have any ladies wanting to ask a question.
One's right there.
Right here at the end.
Okay, yeah, go
right
on.
at the end.
Yeah, go on.
Please go ahead.
हेलो
Yeah.
मैम मेरा नाम नेहा शालिनी दुआ है और मैं सोशल एक्टिविस्ट और साथ साथ पॉलिटिकल एनालिस्ट हूँ. रियल एस्टेट में डिमांड एंड सप्लाई होता है, बट अभी बहुत सारे टाइम से हम देख रहे हैं कि डिमांड इतनी नहीं है, सप्लाई होता जा रहा है, जिस वजह से रियल एस्टेट इज गोइंग इनटू वेरी डाउन, इतनी नीचे आ चुका है कि उसे उठाना आपके लिए मीन्स फाइनेंस के लिए भी, फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर के लिए भी मुश्किल है, लेकिन नामुमकिन नहीं. तो इस सेक्टर में मैम प्लीज आप कुछ करिए कि ये सेक्टर भी ऊपर आए.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Ma'am, do you want to add anything to that?
Well, रियल एस्टेट सेक्टर के लिए ही मैंने लास्ट अनाउंसमेंट कर चुकी हूँ, जिसमें जितने भी प्रोजेक्ट इनकम्प्लीट है और आखिरी जो भी पड़ाव है उसको कंप्लीट करने के लिए हमारे सरकार के तरफ से फिनेंशियल असिस्टेंस एक एस्क्रो अकाउंट के द्वारा देने के लिए एक विंडो अनाउंस हो चुका है. उसमें पहले 100 प्रोजेक्ट्स का लिस्ट मंत्रालय में है, उसका ड्यू डिलिजेंस का एक्टिविटी चल रही है. मेरा मानना यह है कि दिसंबर 15 तारीख के अंदर कम से कम 10 प्रोजेक्ट्स का पैसा पहले ट्रांच मिल चुका होगा. एक है. दूसरा, आप जो कह रहे हैं कि डिमांड नहीं है, बहुत सारे सप्लाई में बैठा हुआ है, उसमें मैं भिन्न अभिप्राय रखती हूँ. कल परसों बिल्डर्स ग्रुप एक से मुझे मैसेज आया, मैं नाम नहीं ले रही हूं उनका, मुंबई पुणे के कहीं उस रास्ते पर उनके प्रोजेक्ट्स है अफोर्डेबल हाउसिंग के लिए, 3 गुना ज्यादा डिमांड है उनका. 100 बना रहे हैं शायद, नंबर मुझे मालूम नहीं, 100, उसके लिए 300 लोग आकर के पैसा तब की तब भरवाने के लिए तैयार है. रेडी तैयार हाउसेस है, लेने के लिए भी तैयार है, डिमांड भी है, मगर इनकम्प्लीट जो है उनके वजह से नेगेटिविटी चल रही है कि कब ये कंप्लीट होगा, कब हमें मिलेगा, क्योंकि बहुत सारे होम बायर्स लोन भी ले चुके हैं ईएमआई बनाने के लिए, भरवाने के लिए, और रेंट भी दे रहे हैं दूसरी तरफ से. उनका तकलीफ पिछले कम से कम 10 साल से है, उनको राहत दिलाने के लिए ही सरकार